Hey there, welcome back to Narrative Nights. How was your day today? I hope you made it through all right, whether it was busy, tiring, or filled with those small struggles we don't always talk about. If you're feeling a little worn out, you're in the right place. Take a breath. Let the world slow down for just a moment. Tonight, I'd like to invite you to rest here with me and let your mind drift into a story, a gentle tale from the old Irish myths, wrapped in dreams, longing, and a love that crosses worlds. A story about Aengus Og, the young god whose heart was captured by a vision so powerful it refused to fade. So settle in, get comfortable, and let this tale keep you company as your day comes to a quiet close. Have you ever experienced a dream so vivid, so powerful that it felt more like a memory than a fleeting fantasy? A dream so intense that it consumed your every thought, compelling you to seek out its meaning in the waking world. For Aengus, the young god of love and beauty, such a dream changed his life forever. Aengus, son of the great Dagda and Boann, was one of the most beloved of the Tuatha Dé Danann, the powerful race of gods and immortals in Irish mythology. Known for his boundless charm and irresistible beauty, Aengus had the ability to captivate anyone who laid eyes on him. But despite his many admirers, his heart yearned for something deeper, a love that would transcend the superficial, something pure and unshakable. One night, as the stars shimmered brightly over the emerald hills of Ireland, Aengus lay down to sleep. Little did he know that the dream he was about to have would set him on a path that would change the course of his destiny. In his dream, Aengus saw a figure, a beautiful woman, with flowing hair like a river of silver and eyes as deep as the ocean. She moved with the grace of the wind, her steps light but filled with an ethereal power. As he looked closer, Aengus saw that this woman was no ordinary being. She was a fairy, a creature of the Otherworld, with a presence that seemed to shimmer between realms. Her name was Caer, and her beauty was beyond compare. But as Aengus gazed upon her, something strange happened. The woman, who had once stood before him as a vision of grace and allure, suddenly transformed. In the blink of an eye, she became a swan, her wings beating with a powerful rhythm as she soared into the sky, and just like that she vanished into the clouds. Aengus awoke with a start, his heart pounding in his chest. The image of Caer in her swan form was burned into his mind, and he knew without a doubt that this dream was no mere fantasy. It was a calling, a message from the depths of the Otherworld, a signal that his fate was entwined with this mysterious fairy, and that he must find her no matter the cost. But how could Aengus, a god who could change his form at will, find a woman who was forever locked in the shape of a swan? And what was the meaning behind the vision that had left him both mesmerized and troubled? As Aengus pondered these questions, one thing was clear. His journey was just beginning. The path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but his heart was set. He could not and would not rest until he found Caer and uncovered the mystery of her transformation. Where would Aengus's search lead him? And what sacrifices would he have to make to find the love that had been whispered to him in his dream? The answers to these questions would come, but not without great trials and discoveries. After the dream, Aengus was consumed with a single thought. He had to find Caer, the fairy maiden who had appeared to him in his sleep. The vision of her transformation into a swan, her eyes filled with an ancient sorrow, haunted him. He could not shake the feeling that their destinies were bound together in a way he could not yet understand. Aengus knew that the path to finding Caer would not be simple. As the god of love and beauty, he was accustomed to having his desires fulfilled. Yet this was different. This was not about winning someone's affection with charms or gifts. This was something deeper, a call from the Otherworld, a pull toward a fate that transcended mere attraction. He approached his father, Dagda, the great god of wisdom and magic seeking guidance. Dagda looked at his son with understanding, but there was a hint of caution in his eyes. You have seen her in a dream, Aengus, but be warned, the fairies of the Otherworld are not like the mortals you are accustomed to. Their realm is one of shifting magic, where beauty is a veil and love is often a trap. Are you truly ready for what lies ahead? Aengus, however, was resolute. I have seen her, father. She is no mere dream. I must find her. I must know why she was transformed. Dagda sighed deeply, but there was a certain pride in his gaze. He handed Aengus a small carved stone. This will guide you when the time comes. It is a token of our power, a piece of magic that can help you when you are lost. But remember, love is not always as it seems. What you seek may not be what you expect." With the stone in hand, Aengus set off, crossing the wide, mist-covered landscapes of Ireland. The journey was long, and the further he went, the more distant the vision of Caer seemed. But as he journeyed, he kept thinking about her, the Swan Maiden whose beauty and sorrow had entered his dreams and would not let him go. He could not stop now. He had to find her. One day, after weeks of searching, Aengus arrived at a quiet, mist-covered lake, a place where the air felt thick with magic. The water shimmered under the moonlight, as if the very surface of the lake held secrets of the ancient world. As he stood there, he felt a deep pull in his chest, as though the lake itself was calling him. He knelt beside the water, gazing into its depths. The moonlight reflected on the surface, casting soft shadows. Then, from the mist, a figure emerged. It was a woman, her long hair flowing like silver, her eyes filled with the same sorrow Aengus had seen in his dream. Caer. But just as he reached out to her, a sudden gust of wind swept across the lake, and Caer disappeared, only to reappear as a swan, her wings beating powerfully against the air. She rose, soaring higher into the sky, and vanished into the night. Aengus stood frozen, his heart racing. This time, the dream had not been a dream at all. Caer was real, and she was here, just out of his reach. He watched, the water ripple where she had been. But he now understood something deeper. Caer was trapped in her swan form by a powerful enchantment. She was not merely a dream to be chased. She was a being of the Otherworld, bound by forces beyond his comprehension. The next day, Aengus left the lake with a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that his search had only just begun. Caer had been in front of him, but he had not yet unlocked the key to her true form. To free her, he would need to face trials that would test his love, his courage, and his very soul. But Aengus was not deterred. He would not stop until he freed Caer, no matter what it took. The road ahead would not be easy. The path through the Otherworld was fraught with danger, and the love he sought was not the only thing at stake. There were forces at play far greater than himself, and they would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. The question was no longer whether Aengus would find Caer, but whether he was prepared to sacrifice everything for the love that had come to him in a dream. Aengus's resolve grew stronger as he ventured further into the wilds of Ireland. His dreams were now filled with the haunting image of Caer Ibromith, her transformation into a swan forever etched into his memory. He knew that finding her was no longer a question of desire, but of destiny. His heart burned with the urgency to uncover the mystery of her enchantment, and ultimately to free her from the curse that held her. The land stretched out before him, vast and filled with secrets, but the journey was not an easy one. The path to the Otherworld was not marked by clear roads or trails. It was a realm of magic, hidden behind veils of mist and fog, where the very air hummed with ancient forces that could warp time and space. Aengus knew that to seek Caer, he would have to tread carefully, for the fairy realm was not a place where mortals and gods alike were always welcomed. After several weeks of searching, he arrived at a dense forest known to be filled with the wisdom of the ancient druids, those who held knowledge of the arcane and the ways of the Otherworld. The trees stood like sentinels, their twisted branches reaching up toward the sky, their trunks thick and ancient, steeped in magic. This was a place where the air itself seemed charged with a deep, vibrating energy. It was said that those who entered this sacred forest could hear the whispers of the past and the future, as if the land itself held the secrets of all time. Aengus ventured deeper into the heart of the forest, where he knew the druids gathered in times of need. They were wise beyond measure, and if anyone could help him understand the nature of Caer's curse, it would be them. Finally, in a small clearing illuminated by soft moonlight, Aengus found the druids. They were gathered in a circle, their robes flowing with the wind, their eyes closed in deep concentration. As Aengus approached, one of the druids opened their eyes, a gleam of recognition in their gaze. "You seek the fairy Caer," the druid spoke softly, his voice low but filled with a power that resonated deep in Aengus's chest. "I can see it in your heart, young Aengus. The vision of her has consumed you, and now you are here to seek the truth." Aengus nodded. "Tell me, wise one." What is this curse that binds her to the form of a swan? Why is she trapped in this shape, unable to be free? The druid's face grew solemn, and he motioned for Aengus to sit. The curse that binds Caer myth is ancient, woven into the very fabric of her being. She was once a fairy of great beauty, beloved by many, but there were those who feared her power, those who envied her radiance and grace. In their jealousy, they cast a spell upon her, one that forced her to take the shape of a swan, a creature bound to the waters. Her heart was bound to the curse, and she could only return to her true form when a love that was pure, unwavering, and true called her back. Aengus's heart sank as he listened to the druid's words. The power of the curse was stronger than he had imagined. It was not just an enchantment, it was a test, a trial of love and spirit. Caer had been locked in her swan form until the one who truly loved her could free her, and Aengus knew, without question, that he was that one. But he also knew that love alone would not be enough. The druid continued, "To break the curse, you must prove your love not only in words, but in deeds. You must show that you are willing to sacrifice something of yourself, something that is deeply intertwined with your soul. Only then will the spell be undone, and Caer will be free to return to her true form." Aengus's thoughts raced. Sacrifice. What could he possibly give that would prove his love was true? He had already faced many challenges in his life, but this was different. This was not just a test of strength or skill. This was a test of his very heart. "Do not rush to find the answer," the druid said, his voice calm but knowing. "The love that will break this curse is not easily won. You must reflect upon your heart, and only when you are ready will the way be shown." With those final words, the druids returned to their circle, their eyes closing once more, leaving Aengus to ponder the path ahead. As he left the clearing, Aengus's mind swirled with questions. What was the sacrifice he needed to make? Was he willing to give up something as personal as his own essence? What was the true meaning of love, if it could only be tested through such a profound sacrifice? The road ahead seemed more daunting than ever, but Aengus knew that he could not stop now. Caer was out there, waiting for him, and he would do whatever it took to free her, no matter the cost. As the night fell around him, Aengus walked deeper into the forest, determined to find the answer he sought. The journey was far from over, and the true test of his love had only just begun. Aengus could not shake the heavy burden of the druid's words. The curse that bound Caer was unlike any he had ever encountered. It was not merely a spell, a fleeting magic that could be undone with a simple act of will. This was a curse tied to her very being, her soul intertwined with the shape of a swan, and the only way to break it was through a sacrifice, a true and pure expression of love. The question lingered in his mind. What was he willing to sacrifice? The days that followed were filled with restless searching. Aengus wandered the forests, the hills, and the shores of lakes, lost in thought. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Caer as she had appeared to him, radiant, ethereal, and then, in an instant, transformed into a swan, her wings carrying her away from him. It was a vision that haunted him, a constant reminder of his quest. The more he thought about the sacrifice, the more he realized that it was not a decision to be made lightly. The love he felt for Caer was deeper than anything he had ever known. But what could he give up that would prove his love was worthy of breaking such a powerful curse? One evening, as Aengus sat by the edge of a quiet lake, he felt a shift in the air. The waters before him rippled, disturbed by an unseen presence. As he looked up, he saw a figure approaching. It was the Morrigan, the goddess of fate, war, and prophecy. Her presence was unmistakable. The air seemed to crackle with energy as she stepped closer to him. "You are seeking the fairy, Caer," the Morrigan's voice was both soft and commanding, "and you are searching for a way to prove your love. But understand this, Aengus. Love is not always a sweet song. Sometimes it demands the sacrifice of your very soul." Aengus rose to meet her gaze. I understand the trials before me, but I do not know what I must sacrifice. What am I willing to give to prove my love?" The Morrigan smiled, though there was no warmth in her expression. "You must give what is most dear to you, the thing that defines you. Only then will the curse be broken, and Caer will return to her true form." Aengus's heart thudded in his chest. But what do I hold most dear? The Morrigan's eyes gleamed, her voice like a whisper of wind. That is something you must discover for yourself. It is a journey that lies within your heart. But know this, once you make the sacrifice, there is no turning back. Love is a force that cannot be tamed, and once it is given, it shapes your destiny. With those words, the Morrigan vanished, leaving Aengus alone with the weight of her prophecy. He stood at the edge of the lake, staring into the dark, rippling water. His mind raced as he thought about what the Morrigan had said. What was he truly willing to give up? What was it that made him who he was? And how could he reconcile his love for Caer with the cost of breaking the curse that bound her? The next morning, as Aengus continued his journey, the answer began to take shape in his mind. He realised that the sacrifice he had to make was not just a simple offering or a token. It was something much deeper. It was a sacrifice of his own identity, the very essence of what made him Aengus, the god of love and beauty. He had always been adored for his charms, his radiant beauty, and his power to capture hearts. But now, he understood that to truly love Caer, he must offer something more than his physical form or his godly allure. Aengus began to prepare himself for the trial ahead. The more he thought about the sacrifice, the more he understood that the love he sought to break the curse was not about power or beauty, but about vulnerability, about offering up the deepest parts of himself to another. Only then could he truly prove that his love was pure and true. Days passed as Aengus continued his journey through the wilds of Ireland, his heart heavy with the knowledge that he would soon face the greatest challenge of his life. He could feel the pull of the Otherworld, the space between the realms where Caer remained locked in her swan form. The closer he got to her, the more the reality of what he had to do weighed on him. Finally, he arrived at a quiet, secluded grove, a place where the veil between the worlds was thin. He knew that this was where he would confront the curse, where he would have to make his sacrifice. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Aengus knelt in the centre of the grove, his heart pounding in his chest. "I offer myself," he whispered into the still air, "my heart, my beauty, my essence. I give them all to break the curse, to free Caer from the chains of magic that bind her." The winds seemed to still as Aengus spoke the words, his voice filled with both fear and determination. He felt his very soul stretch out into the air, a bond forming between him and the Otherworld. For a moment the grove seemed to shimmer with energy, and then, as if in response to his words, a soft glow appeared before him. From the light emerged Caer, still in the form of a swan, her wings beating gently against the air. She looked at Aengus with eyes that were filled with a mixture of love and sorrow. Slowly she began to transform, her wings retracting as her human form emerged from the shimmering light. Aengus's heart swelled with relief and joy as he gazed upon her true form. Caer was more beautiful than he had ever imagined, and in that moment, he knew that his sacrifice had been worth it. She was free, and their love, pure and unbroken, had shattered the curse that had bound her for so long. But the sacrifice was not without its cost. Aengus felt a part of himself shift. His heart, once filled with the light of his divine nature, now carried a weight that could never be undone. He had given up the very essence of his being to free her, and in doing so, he had become something different. But it was a change he would welcome, for it was a price worth paying for the love he now shared with Caer. The transformation was complete. Caer, the Swan Maiden, now stood before Aengus, her human form radiant and free from the curse that had bound her for so long. The weight of the magic that had kept her in the shape of a swan was finally lifted, and Aengus felt a deep, profound sense of relief and joy. They were together at last, and it seemed as though nothing could stand in their way. Yet, as the light of the moon bathed them both in its ethereal glow, Aengus realised something crucial. The trials were not over. The Otherworld was a place of great power, and no love, no matter how true, was immune to the forces that governed it. The sacrifice he had made to free Caer had not come without consequences, and the magic of the fairy realm would test them both in ways they had yet to understand. "Caer, we are finally together," Aengus whispered, his voice filled with emotion. "But I feel something, a shift, an unease. The path to love is not always without struggle." Caer looked at him with a mixture of love and concern. "You are right, Aengus," she said, her voice soft yet full of wisdom. "We may be free from the curse, but the Otherworld does not easily release its hold. There are those who will not welcome our love, who will seek to keep us apart." Aengus's heart tightened at her words. He had hoped that once the curse was broken, their love would flourish without further obstacles, but he understood now that their journey was far from over. Before he could speak, the air around them began to change. The wind picked up, swirling with a deep, unsettling energy. The trees around them trembled, and the sky above darkened, as though the very realm itself had begun to shift. A presence, dark and menacing, emerged from the shadows. A figure that was as ancient as the Otherworld itself. It was the Morrigan, the goddess of fate and war, her eyes glowing with an intensity that sent chills down Aengus's spine. Her appearance was not unexpected. She had warned Aengus of the trials to come, but now, as she stood before them, it was clear that the true test of their love had arrived. Aengus, son of Dagda, and Caer, daughter of the Fae. The Morrigan's voice echoed through the grove, a voice both beautiful and terrifying. "You have broken the curse, and for that, I commend you. But the love you share is not so simple as you think. The Otherworld is not so easily swayed by the whims of the heart. There are forces in this realm that do not take kindly to those who seek to defy its magic." Aengus stepped forward, his heart filled with both determination and trepidation. "What is it you seek from us, Morrigan?" he asked. "We have sacrificed so much to be together. What more must we give?" The Morrigan's smile was cold, her eyes glinting with a dangerous light. "You seek to love freely, without the chains of magic, but love is a power that does not go unchallenged. The forces of the Otherworld will test you. The final trial is not one of sacrifice, but of strength. You must face those who have long ruled this realm, those who will never accept your love. Only by defeating them will you be allowed to remain together, free from the bonds of fate." Aengus's heart sank. He had expected challenges, but he had not anticipated a confrontation with the very rulers of the Otherworld. The gods, the fairies, and all the creatures of this realm would not simply let them be. The Morrigan raised her hand, and a ripple of power surged through the air. From the shadows emerged 3 figures, each one more terrifying than the last. These were the Fomorians, ancient beings of darkness and chaos, creatures who ruled the shadows of the Otherworld. Their eyes burned with malice, and their forms seemed to shimmer between human and monstrous, with twisted features and limbs that defied natural form. Aengus felt the air grow heavy, the weight of their presence pressing in on him. But he did not falter. He could feel Caer by his side, her presence as strong and unwavering as his own. Together they could face whatever came their way. "Do you see now, Aengus?" The Morrigan's voice was a whisper, a hiss that slid through the air like a serpent. The Fomorians are not just creatures of darkness. They are the guardians of the balance between realms. They will not allow you to remain in the light unless you prove your love is stronger than the forces that have shaped the Otherworld for eons. Aengus stood tall, his eyes locked on the approaching Fomorians. His love for Caer was his strength, and he would not allow anything to tear them apart. "We will face you," he declared, his voice unwavering, "for the love we share, for the freedom we deserve." The Fomorians let out a terrifying roar, their twisted forms lurching forward. The battle had begun, and the future of their love rested on the outcome of this final trial. With Caer by his side, Aengus knew that the true test was not of strength alone, but of their bond, their unity. The power of love was not something that could be measured by force or magic. It was a force that transcended the physical, a power that could challenge the very foundations of the Otherworld itself. The Fomorians charged, their monstrous forms closing in on Aengus and Caer, but they stood firm. This was their moment, the moment they would prove that nothing, not even the ancient powers of the Otherworld, could tear them apart. As the battle raged on, Aengus and Caer fought not only for their freedom but for the future they had dreamed of, a future where love was the greatest force of all. The air crackled with tension as the Fomorians charged toward Aengus and Caer, their twisted bodies moving with unnatural speed. Their eyes gleamed with a malevolent hunger, and their roars echoed through the trees like the sound of thunder. The Otherworld had come alive with fury, and the trial of their love was in full force. But Aengus and Caer did not falter. Their love, pure and unwavering, flowed between them like a tangible force, stronger than any magic, stronger than any curse. Together they stood as one, ready to face the darkness that threatened to consume them. As the first Fomorian lunged toward Aengus, he raised his hand, calling upon the power of his Tuatha De Danann heritage. A burst of golden light surged from his palm, striking the creature with a force that sent it reeling back. The Fomorian screeched in fury, its dark skin cracking and sizzling from the blow. But even as Aengus fought, he knew that brute strength would not be enough. The Fomorians were ancient and powerful, creatures born from chaos itself. They had ruled the shadows of the Otherworld for eons, and their grip on the realm was unyielding. To defeat them, Aengus would have to do more than wield power. He would have to fight for the very heart of his love. Beside him, Caer moved with the grace of the Fae, her form flowing like water as she dodged and weaved around the Fomorians. Her beauty, once hidden beneath the curse of the swan, now radiated with an ethereal light. She struck with precision, each blow a testament to the strength she had gained through her own trials. But even as she fought, her eyes never left Aengus. Their connection was undeniable, a bond that transcended the physical realm. "Aengus!" Caer called, her voice strong but filled with urgency. "We cannot defeat them with force alone. We must show them the strength of our love. Only then will they release us." Aengus nodded, his heart swelling with determination. Caer was right. This battle was not just a physical one. It was a battle for their souls, for their very right to love each other freely. The Fomorians were not just enemies to be vanquished. They were embodiments of the dark forces that sought to keep them apart. Only by standing united, by showing the world the power of their love, could they break the curse that bound them. "Aengus!" Caer cried again, her voice filled with both love and sorrow. "Do you remember the promise we made when we first met? That no matter the cost we would find each other, no matter the trials?" Aengus's eyes met hers, and in that moment he knew what they had to do. They had already proven their love through sacrifice. Now they would prove it by facing their greatest fear, the possibility of losing each other forever. With a mighty roar, Aengus and Caer turned to face the Fomorians, their hearts beating in unison. They reached for each other's hands, their love a bright, burning light that surged through them both. The Otherworld itself seemed to respond, the dark energy of the realm bending and twisting around them as they stood together. "Together we are stronger," Aengus whispered to Caer, his voice filled with conviction. "Our love is greater than their darkness." In that instant the Fomorians hesitated, their monstrous forms faltering as the light of Aengus and Caer's love enveloped them. The air was thick with magic, and the ground beneath them seemed to tremble with the force of their connection. Aengus could feel the very fabric of the Otherworld shifting, the ancient powers that had once held Caer captive, now bending to the strength of their love. With a final earth-shattering cry, the Fomorians recoiled, their forms breaking apart as the light of Aengus and Caer's love burned away the darkness that had held them in place. The creatures let out a final, desperate wail before vanishing into the ether, their presence erased from the realm. The grove fell silent. Aengus and Caer stood there, breathing heavily, their bodies marked with the exhaustion of battle, but their hearts light with victory. The Otherworld had tested them, but their love had proven stronger than the forces that sought to tear them apart. But as the last echoes of the Fomorians faded, the Morrigan appeared once more, her dark presence still looming over them. "Well done, Aengus," she said, her voice cold but tinged with respect. "You have faced the trials of love, sacrifice, and strength, and now you have proven that your love is unbreakable." Aengus stepped forward, his chest swelling with pride, but he could not help but ask, "Is it truly over? Have we passed the final test?" The Morrigan's lips curled into a thin smile. "The test was never about defeating the Fomorians, Aengus. The true test was about your willingness to sacrifice everything for the one you love, and you have done that. You and Caer have shown the Otherworld that love is a force greater than any curse, greater than any magic." Aengus turned to Caer, and in her eyes he saw the same fierce love that had guided him through the trials. They had fought together, and now they stood victorious. The Morrigan raised her hand, and the realm around them began to shift. "You are free now, Aengus and Caer," she said. "The Otherworld has released its hold. Go, live your love, for it is the greatest magic of all." With a final nod, the Morrigan vanished, leaving Aengus and Caer standing alone in the quiet grove. The dark forces of the Otherworld had been vanquished, and their love had triumphed. Aengus turned to Caer, his heart overflowing with love and gratitude. "We did it," he whispered, his voice filled with wonder. "We're free." Caer smiled, her eyes sparkling with tears of joy. "Yes, Aengus, we are." And so, together, they walked hand in hand into the future, their love shining brighter than any curse, stronger than any force that had once sought to keep them apart. They had proven that true love, a love that was pure, unwavering and strong, could conquer even the darkest of trials. The grove around them was quiet, the echoes of battle now only a memory. The weight of the trials, the sacrifices and the tests they had endured seemed to lift, leaving only the tender feeling of victory in their hearts. Aengus and Caer stood side by side, their hands intertwined, their spirits intertwined with the magic of the otherworld that they had just conquered together. For a moment, they simply stood there, taking in the peace that surrounded them. The Morrigan had vanished, and with her departure, the oppressive weight of the curse and the trials had also lifted. The world felt lighter, more vibrant, as though a veil had been pulled back, and the truth of their love was now shining brightly for all to see. "Aengus," Caer whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. She turned to face him, her eyes filled with both relief and wonder. "It's over. We are free." Aengus smiled, but there was something in his eyes, a deep, profound understanding of the cost of their freedom. "Yes, we are free," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "But it was not without sacrifice. You've given me everything, Caer, and now I've given all I am to you." Caer's heart swelled with love for him. She had never doubted the strength of their bond, but seeing Aengus stand by her, his heart so fully committed, filled her with a love deeper than words could express. "And you've proven your love in ways I never could have imagined. You gave not just your heart, but a piece of your very soul. That's what makes our love truly unbreakable." The silence between them was filled only by the sounds of nature, the soft rustling of leaves in the wind, the distant call of birds, the very earth beneath their feet feeling alive with the power of their connection. "We've both sacrificed so much," Aengus said, looking at the ground as though reflecting on everything that had happened. "But in the end, it was worth it, wasn't it?" Caer stepped closer to him, placing her hand over his heart. "Every sacrifice, every trial, it was all worth it. To be free with you now, to have our love recognized and unbroken, that is the greatest gift of all." Their gaze locked once more, and in that instant they knew they had not only passed the trials of the otherworld, but they had transcended the boundaries that had once divided them. No longer would they be separated by curses, magic, or fate. They were now bound by the truest force of all, the power of their love. As the moon rose higher in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the land, Aengus and Caer knew their journey had only just begun. They had faced the trials of the heart, sacrificed for each other, and come out victorious. Now they were free to live their love, to shape their own destiny, and to create a life that was theirs alone. Free from the forces of magic, free from the constraints of fate. "Shall we leave this place?" Caer asked, her voice soft yet filled with hope. "Shall we go where we can be truly free together?" Aengus nodded, his heart swelling with anticipation. "Yes, wherever we go, whatever we do, as long as we're together, I am home." And so, with hearts full of love and spirits unburdened, they walked from the grove, hand in hand toward their future. The otherworld was no longer a place of shadow and trial for them. It was a world where they had proven the power of love, a love that had endured every test, every trial, and emerged stronger than ever before. The love that began in a dream, that was tested by sacrifice, and that triumphed over the darkness, was now their greatest victory. They were free to write their own story, to live their own myth, a love story that would be passed down through the ages, a legend for the future. And as they walked together into the night, the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, as though the heavens themselves had borne witness to the victory of love and would forever carry its light. As Aengus and Caer ventured forth from the grove, the world seemed to open up before them. The landscape stretched endlessly, filled with possibilities and promise. The trials were behind them now, but the bond they shared, forged in the fires of sacrifice and tested by the depths of the otherworld, had become their greatest strength. They walked in silence for a time, each step reaffirming the truth of their love, and each glance exchanged between them spoke volumes of what they had endured and what lay ahead. The Otherworld had tried to separate them, but they had defied its power. The curse that had bound Caer to her swan form was broken, and now nothing but the open sky stretched before them. As they walked hand in hand, Aengus could feel a deep sense of peace settle within him. The magic that had once held them captive was now nothing more than a memory, and all that mattered was the love they shared. Eventually Aengus broke the silence. "We have faced the darkest parts of the Otherworld, and yet here we are, together, free. But what now, Caer? What does the future hold for us?" Caer smiled, her eyes soft and filled with love. "The future is ours to create, Aengus. For the first time, we're not bound by anything but our hearts. We can go where we choose, do as we wish, and build a life together that is our own." Her words brought Aengus comfort, but they also filled him with excitement. For the first time in his existence, he felt the weight of destiny fall away, leaving only the possibility of an open road. Caer was right. Their love was now the only force that mattered, and it was stronger than anything the Otherworld could throw at them. Over time, Aengus and Caer made their way through the lands, travelling from village to village, from glen to glen, their love an enduring flame that could not be extinguished. Wherever they went, people spoke of them, their love an inspiration to all who heard their story. The tale of the god of love and the Swan Maiden became a legend, a story passed down through generations, a reminder of the power of sacrifice, devotion, and unwavering commitment. As the years passed, their love only deepened. Though their trials were behind them, the joy of their union was something that continued to grow. For Aengus and Caer knew that the greatest treasure they had was not the freedom from the Otherworld, but the bond they shared. Their love was the kind of love that transcended time, space, and even the gods themselves. It was the kind of love that changed the world, and their hearts were now fully entwined in it. In the heart of Ireland, in a valley sheltered by mountains and forests, Aengus and Caer built their home. It was a simple dwelling, filled with warmth and laughter, but it was theirs. It became a place where they could rest, dream, and continue to shape their future together. They lived in peace, knowing that their love was unbreakable. Their home, however, became more than just a refuge. It became a sanctuary for those who needed help, a place of healing, love, and refuge for anyone who had suffered from the darkness of the world. Aengus, with his godly power, and Caer, with her knowledge of the fairy realm, were able to guide others, showing them that love was the greatest magic of all, the magic that healed, protected, and transformed. And so, Aengus and Caer lived out the rest of their days, their legacy becoming a beacon of light in a world that was often shadowed by despair. Their love inspired poets, artists, and dreamers who would write songs and tell tales of the god and the fairy who defied fate and the forces of magic. Their story became one that would echo through time, carried on the wind, whispered among the trees, and sung in the hearts of those who believed in the power of true love. And as the sun set each evening, casting a golden glow over the land, Aengus and Caer would sit together by the fireside, content in the knowledge that their love had triumphed over everything that sought to keep them apart. They had faced the ultimate test and emerged victorious, not because they were gods or fairies, but because their love was pure, unwavering, and strong. Their story would live forever, passed down for generations to come, a timeless tale of love, sacrifice, and the magic that exists within the hearts of those who dare to love without limit. And so, the tale of Aengus and Caer, the god of love and the Swan Maiden, became a legend that would echo throughout the ages, reminding all who heard it that love, in its truest form, is the most powerful force of all.